Part 85. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 860. As the front line returned to calm, the world of justice began to gradually mobilize its elite frontline troops to defend the world of justice, but the many planetary systems captured by the expeditionary force were not abandoned. According to the plan proposed by Commander Langrim, the construction and manufacturing capabilities of the Justice World were fully mobilized, and large-scale construction of the Fortress World began. The war machines launched in response to the Great Crusade have also been given a new lease of life because of this tactic, but the Ministry of the Interior has begun to reduce military production capacity and began to transform some space shipyards and synthesis factories. Otherwise, if it is delayed until the end, countless worlds will suffer from stagnant development due to product backlog. Although the world of justice has a very authoritative central government, which will prevent people from starving to death, riots, etc., it will eventually cause dissatisfaction among some residents of the outer worlds. Because after these worlds lose their small arms manufacturing industry, their living standards will drop rapidly, and the gap between them and some worlds close to the core world circle will quickly widen. On the other hand, the first and second angel legions, as well as the Judgment Angel Legion, were quickly transferred out of the frontline combat sequence, rearranged their bases near the God's throne world, and entered a rest period. At the same time, they began to reward warriors with outstanding performance in the war. And just when Binghua was about to discuss with several God-level angels under his command about how to carry out the beheading plan of the eternal ascended host Samilo host, Heikawi, who was a traveling angel, contacted Binghua and told him something about the Edge world, which involved animal civilization. This made Binghua a little surprised. This was the first time that Binghua heard about the existence of animal civilization in this star field, and judging from the words in Hizui's communication, the other party was not living well in the world of justice. Heikawi, tell me where you are in the world specifically, and I will go and see the situation myself. For the time being, Binghua suppressed the plan to behead the Samilo host and directly summoned the Sky Sword. Tianjian, what is Hizui talking about? Why is the beast body civilization enslaved? Report to the Queen. According to the angel's records, animal civilization is the enemy of the divine river body, and the laws of the righteous world will not protect the enemies of the divine river body. Does the Queen think I did something wrong? The projection of the heavenly sword blinked its red pupils and looked at its queen in confusion. Hearing this, Binghua raised his hands and covered his face slightly, thinking that he knew what was going on. Tianjian's character logic was formed based on the angel database of Tianjian's supercomputer. Of course, his subjective consciousness would be the same as what was recorded in the database. He believed that beasts the body is the enemy. Without the supervision of Heavenly Sword, those adventurists in the fringe world can do anything. Forget it, Tianjian will arrange for me to go to the gate of time and space in the Edge world. I want to see for myself how these people enslave each other. Binghua said to Tianjian that the reason why Binghua wanted to go there in person was because she planned to observe the beast body civilization mentioned by Hizui. If there were no accidents, Hichui's character would not explain it to these beast bodies, because she was a witness to the physical war among angels, and she was very aware of the cruelty of beast body civilization. The newer world is a newly developed world with rudimentary infrastructure. There are only colonial bases left by some interstellar adventurers and some resource collection companies from the world. But in recent years, the world has begun to become prosperous rapidly due to the rise of something, and this is how Angel Heikawi was attracted. After several years of wandering around the world of justice, Hizui has a general understanding of the world of justice, which is mainly divided into 4 major regions. They are the core area, the middle area, the peripheral area, and the final edge area. Among the 4 areas of the world, only the first 3 areas are relatively stable and prosperous, and the laws of the righteous world have been effectively implemented. But this is not the case in the final fringe areas, because the people hanging around in these areas are either those interstellar explorers who like to take risks and explore, or the resource exploration and collection teams of various large companies. Because there are no judgment angels appointed by the just world, as well as a complete government and law enforcement, the people here are more unruly and start to exploit some loopholes and tinker with things that are prohibited in the just world. Binghua had just arrived in this world called Newer and was a little unaccustomed to everything around him, because the buildings around him were very rough, and most of them were modular and simple alloy houses that had been in use for an unknown period of time. I thought you would come here in high spirits, but I didn't expect you to come directly through the gate of time and space. Hizui greeted Binghua, who walked out of the blue beam of light and welcomed him with a smile. If I come here openly, all the people here might run away, and I'll have to bother catching them by then. Binghua looked at the brown coat and jeans worn by Hizui, and after thinking about it, he changed his outfit so that it was less eye-catching. Hizui took Binghua into a restaurant with a rather classical decoration. He sat down by the window and asked the waiter to order a few plates of food and a bottle of fruit wine. Try it, the dishes here are very unique. I have had my lunch and dinner here recently, especially this fruit wine, which is sweet, delicious, and has an endless aftertaste. Hizui recommended to Binghua. I haven't seen you for a while. How come you have become a foodie? I used to be in Merlot heaven, but I never saw how you ate. While Binghua was talking, she didn't forget to try the fruit wine recommended by Hizui. Although it wasn't as exaggerated as she said, it tasted very good. She didn't like wine that was too strong, too spicy, but this one had a touch of sweetness. The flavored wine is more to her taste. Don't mention it. The taste of synthetic food is so monotonous. I've been tired of it for thousands of years. It's better here. There are some new things in every world. I haven't finished shopping for several years. Hizui ate the food in front of him elegantly, taking a sip of the fruit wine on the table from time to time. He looked at Binghua and shook his head slightly. It had only been a few years since they last met, and he didn't expect that Hizui's personality had changed. Is this still the fighting mania that always wanted to challenge himself? My queen, why don't you eat? We will go do some business after eating. Hizui saw that Binghua stopped moving after taking a few bites, so he urged her. It's really rare that you can also call me queen. Binghua was a little surprised when he heard Hichui's name, but Hichui said indifferently. In the past, you were just the holy left wing in Merlot heaven. My allegiance was to Queen Kesha. Now that I work under you, of course I have to call you queen. Do you want me to call you goddess like ordinary people? When talking about this, Hizui did not forget to joke. You haven't seen the look in Ran's eyes that wanted to beat me up when I called you by your name. Now if I call you that again, Ran will never let me go again. After saying that, Binghua and Heikawi chuckled together, attracting the attention of other customers in the store. There is only one chapter today, so you don't have to wait any longer. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 861. After you go in, you will know why I said that the world of justice enslaves the beast body civilization. After Heikawi and Hyuka finished their lunch, Hikawi took Hyuka to a large building. Several guards wearing old-fashioned Defense Force armor standing guard at the door were scanning the identification cards of people entering the building. Binghua looked at the people in front of him. There are young people who are more luxuriously dressed and whose family background is relatively good, and there are also ordinary people wearing combat uniforms, vests, and overalls. It seemed that the conditions for entering this building were not high, which made Binghua a little more interested. In fact, Binghua can probably know most of the information about New Earth's world just by scanning it with the eye of insight, but he will lose a lot of fun by doing this all the time. Therefore, Binghua did not refuse Heikawi's invitation. After entering the building, there were corridors dividing the flow of people. Binghua discovered that Heikowi did not lead her into the corridors with most of the people, but instead led her up the stairs to the second floor. As the surrounding walls paved with white stone bricks continued to stretch back, the exit finally appeared, and then there was an extremely wide square, surrounded by high and thick metal fences. The circular auditorium below was full of people. When they saw Binghua, they knew what was going to happen next, but she did not say anything. "Is this what you want me to see? This kind of thing is not new. Some nobles in the Tiangong era often had such duels." After entering a private room with a fairly wide view, Binghua sat down and said casually, "Of course I know this, and I also know that you don't like this kind of barbaric competitive sport." Hizui happily sat next to Binghua, pressed the button on the table, and operated the projector a few times. At the same time, he did not forget to talk to Binghua. "How can I see it? Because there is no such place in the world of justice. When the heavenly palace was overthrown, you ordered some useless buildings to be demolished, including the grand duel arena." Binghua neither admitted nor shook his head, but asked strangely, "You probably won't be interested in this either. Why do you have to drag me over to see this? You'll know after a while, the players who will appear later will be interesting. Haven't you always said that the world of justice lacks some combat capabilities? Maybe the guy who appears next can solve part of your problems." After hearing this, Binghua stopped asking questions and cast her sights on the square below, as the people in the audience almost arrived. The light in the entire duel field suddenly dimmed, and only the middle area of the duel field was still brightly lit. In Binghua, there was a high platform opposite Heikowi's cubicle, which seemed to be a commentary platform. A man in formal attire walked up to the stage, first greeted the audience present, and then introduced various services in the duel field. Finally, when the audience was a little impatient, the host finally got to the point. "Everyone is welcome to come and watch this duel. Next up is our star player Berserker Orgrim." As the host finished speaking, one of the 4 giant alloy doors in the duel square below began to slowly rise, making the sound of metal gears biting together. Before they could see the real owner, it created an extremely powerful atmosphere for the audience present. Sense of depression. When the alloy door was fully raised, a figure walked out, with messy gray long hair hanging behind him, like a lion's mane. The ferocious face had an unusually calm expression, and there were 2 exposed canine teeth in its mouth. This is also the reason for his vicious appearance. On his shoulders are thick shoulder armors polished by unknown bone fragments. In addition, he has breastplates, boots, and other accessories. They are also dotted with some decorations of unknown meaning, but they are full of traces of damage after the battle. From these details, it can be seen that the civilization where this animal warrior, who looks different from Kamigawa and has a thick body and an unusually strong body, lives in has its own unique cultural customs. However, at this moment, the soldier's hands and boots were wearing magnetic shackles, and his mobility was strictly restricted. He could only walk but could not run or jump. The host then began to introduce the past glorious achievements of the berserker named Ogrim, and with the expectations of the audience, he named his next opponent, an extremely powerful beast from the native world of Newer. As the alloy door opposite Ogrim opened, several ferocious beasts covered in spike scales, more than 3 meters tall and 5 or 6 meters long appeared in the field. They also had magnetic shackles on their bodies to restrict their movements. Binghua knew what was going to happen next without even thinking about it. She felt that she needed to rectify this trend. You must know that even after the victory in the physical war, Binghua did not choose to exterminate the world where the animal civilization was located, but did not protect them. During the war, it was a different matter. As a qualified commander, Binghua would do his best to combat the opponent's war potential, and he would not show any mercy even if he killed the entire clan for this purpose. But like now, being an intelligent life enslaves other intelligent beings for fun. How is this different from the animal civilization that once fought physical wars? It is just the rotation of yin and yang, and there is no difference in essence. If this was in the known universe and happened in other civilizations, although Binghua hated this kind of behavior, she wouldn't say anything because she couldn't control it, but the world of justice was different. This was an order she created with her own hands, and she could never do it. Such behavior of playing tricks on fellow intelligent beings appears. It can be said that Binghua is noble, but isn't this unacceptable? There are many things in this world that most people cannot understand, but due to the power of the person involved and many other influences, they have no ability to change it, nor can they understand their inner thoughts. But Binghua is different. In the known universe, she is the noble divine left wing. Here, she is the founder goddess of the righteous world. Whatever she doesn't like must be changed. What she says is law and reason. This is the essence of order in the eyes of God. It has nothing to do with interests, axioms, and morality. It comes from what kind of world and universe the order makers themselves want to see. The ensuing fight between Ogrim and the beast was nothing special in Binghua's eyes. It was completely a competition of strength. As soon as Ogrim's body was unique, Binghua noticed it. His body is extremely dense. Although he is still made of flesh and blood, his toughness is not inferior to that of some ordinary metals. The teeth of those large beasts bit his arm, only breaking a layer of skin before being stuck by its muscles. And Ogrim also exerted enough strength to match this body, directly tearing apart the beasts that dared to bare their teeth at him. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifen Si Wang. Chapter 862. After the duel, Binghua and Hui sat in the private room without leaving, but the person in charge of the duel stood there sweating profusely, not daring to look up at the goddess. I remember that the laws of the just world expressly prohibit the opening of gladiatorial arenas. You are all residents of the just world, why would you break the law? Hearing this, the person in charge of the arena subconsciously wanted to kneel down and admit his mistake, but Binghua's scolding came immediately. No kneeling, answer questions standing up. Binghua frowned slightly. The justice world had abolished the kneeling ceremony a long time ago. This guy is still like this. He must have knelt frequently. It seems that some people seem to have thoughts that they shouldn't have during the time they left the justice world. Goddess, we do not have a gladiatorial arena within the scope of the world of justice. It will take another 10 years before this place will come under the jurisdiction of the righteous world, and we don't know that doing so violates the laws of the righteous world. Goddess, don't worry, we will shut down the dueling arena immediately and dismantle it. In the future, there will never be any business related to the dueling arena again in the newer world. Although the person in charge was frightened, he spoke fairly clearly and had a very good attitude in admitting his mistakes. Binghua nodded slightly and said nothing, because although this place was nominally the territory of the justice world, the actual control was in the hands of the expedition team that discovered this world, and the justice world did not have jurisdiction over this place. Moreover, the laws of the righteous world do not expressly prohibit colonial stars from opening arenas. This is exploiting a loophole in the law. But it doesn't matter, because the duel field is not bold enough to let the residents of the justice world participate in the gladiatorial battle. Most of the time, it is a battle between unknown species and unknown species. The reason why Ogrim appears is also an accident according to the person in charge. However, this still made Binghua decide to close this loophole after returning. Otherwise, these guys who take risks for profit will become more and more unscrupulous in the future, and sooner or later, their compatriots will be brought to the duel field. However, the warning given to the arena was only incidental. What Binghua really wanted to see was the extremely strong beast warrior. This made the person in charge of the arena a little worried and couldn't help but say, "Goddess, that guy has a bad temper. If it weren't for the magnetic shackles, I wouldn't be able to trap him at all. I'm afraid he will be harmful to you, Goddess." Although the person in charge of the dual field has heard that the goddess has extremely powerful power, he still has some doubts after seeing the goddess in person today, because the goddess has a very strong temperament, but compared to those powerful warriors, her figure is solid. A little too thin. But Orgrim is different. As an extremely powerful beast warrior, his combat power is rare in the world. Some retired elite legionnaires cannot fight against him without wearing power armor. As a resident of the world of justice, he is afraid that the goddess will attack him. Something unexpected happened here. It's okay, just bring him here. Seeing the goddess's insistence, the person in charge of the dual field had no choice but to comply. However, when Orgrim was brought up, in addition to the magnetic shackles on his body, there were two more warriors who were about the same height as him and wearing power armor. Fortunately, this private room is spacious enough, otherwise it would definitely feel crowded if several large men with a height of nearly 3 meters were squeezed in at once. As soon as the two retired legionnaires responsible for guarding Orgrim entered the room, they enthusiastically gave a military salute to Binghua. This made the person in charge of the dual field feel a little depressed, because these uncles usually like to play along with some of his orders. Ignorant. Binghua nodded and motioned for them to step back, and the two retired legion soldiers left Orgrim. They were not worried about the safety of the goddess at all. As veterans who had served in the army, they knew the power of the goddess. How terrifying! Not to mention Orgrim, a savage guy with only muscles, even a fleet can be easily destroyed in front of the goddess. Orgrim is the most valiant warrior of his clan. He has experienced countless trials of the clan since his birth and has become the leading berserker in the clan. However, not long ago, a group of hairless men descended on their clan territory. For these invaders, their clan naturally chose to expel them by force. However, the steel spaceships ridden by the hairless people could emit light like flames and would explode when they hit the ground. Faced with this unsolvable situation, their clan had no choice but to surrender. This was very common in clan wars. The weak surrendered to the strong, and there was nothing to be ashamed of. However, those hairless people did not want the food and women of their clan, but the berserker warriors of their clan, while others wanted to dig out a kind of black stone. Although Orgrim is a berserker, he is not stupid. During the few years he came to the world of Newer, he learned the Kamigawa language based on the words and deeds of the people around him. Although he only had a rough understanding of the language, he could also perform basic tasks. Communicate. From the normal conversations of those hairless people, Orgrim knew that they came from an extremely powerful clan called Justice World. These hairless people who invaded their hometown were not even soldiers, but just a group of spies. Naturally, the dual field also discovered the changes in Orgrim. After knowing that he could speak Kamigawa language, his living environment has improved a lot. He can have his own room and can even make some reasonable small requests. These dual fields will satisfy him. Because Orgrim, as a star player in the dual arena, has brought them a lot of benefits, and because the opponent can speak Kamigawa and has broken away from the ranks of uncivilized barbarians, the residents of the just world will naturally give him a little preferential treatment. But Orgrim was not satisfied. The more he knew, the more he wanted to escape from this prison-like duel. But he also knew that even if he escaped with his identity, he would soon be captured. If caught, he might even be killed directly. He envied those residents of the just world who could come in and out of the dueling arena. They did not have to worry about the harsh natural environment, could enjoy plenty of things, and could live comfortably in big houses. He also wants to be like that, and maybe he even wants his clan to live such a life, so that his clan doesn't have to starve due to lack of resources caused by the weather. But the residents of these just worlds are very proud, and Ogrim feels that he will definitely not be able to achieve this goal as a slave. Recently, Ogrim is looking for an opportunity to get rid of his current identity, but there has been no progress. But today, for some unknown reason, the manager of the duel field, who rarely showed up in normal times, led people to find him after the duel, and also called 2 guards who could fight him after putting on armor. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifen Si Wang. Chapter 863. When Ogrim was taken to a room by the guards, Ogrim saw 2 women who were very beautiful in the aesthetics of the residents of the justice world. Of course, Ogrim had no feelings for these 2 beautiful Kamigawa women. Compared to the skinny residents of the justice world, he preferred the women with strong bodies in his hometown. However, based on the looks and positions of the guards and the person in charge of the duel, the black-haired Kamigawa woman among them should have a very high status. I heard that your name is Ogrim and you can also speak Kamigawa language. Binghua asked slightly curiously. She also got this information from the person in charge of the duel field, which saved her time in deciphering their language. This is the founder of the righteous world and the God we believe in. You must call her the goddess. The person in charge of the duel field immediately spoke up and explained to Ogrim. Ogrim immediately called goddess very politely. Although the pronunciation was a bit awkward, at least everyone present could hear it clearly. Seeing this, Binghua raised his hand slightly, and the magnetic shackles on Ogrim opened with a click and fell to the ground, which shocked everyone present. No need to be surprised. Ogrim is not a slave of the just world, nor is he a criminal. There is no need to continue wearing this thing. Ogrim's heart was suddenly filled with a sense of happiness. He didn't expect that this unreachable freedom would be obtained so easily today. Thank you, Lady Justice, for your gift. Ogrim's tone was unusually sincere this time. At the same time, Ogrim also eagerly asked a question he had always wanted to know. Goddess, I admire the culture of the justice world very much. I wonder what conditions are needed to join the justice world. Ogrim knelt on one knee and raised his head to ask Binghua. This was the question he was most concerned about. He was a little uneasy and was afraid that the condition for joining the justice world was hairless people. Everyone in the room with this problem in Ogrim was surprised. Do you want to lead your tribe to join the world of justice? Binghua said with a slight surprise that in his impression, animal civilization should be very exclusive. The only way to suppress them is to overwhelm them in terms of strength. Yes, goddess, if I had never been exposed to the world of justice, I would never have had such an idea. But during my few years here, I was lucky enough to be exposed to the culture of the world of justice. Although there are some parts that I don't understand, I can feel that doing so can help my clan live a better life. Ogrim spoke his mind plainly and simply. Ogrim didn't expect that it would not be difficult for his strongest berserker to return to the clan and change the clan's customs after he was free. It's a pity that although Ogrim is not stupid, he can't figure out how to ensure everyone's survival after changing the clan customs. Finally, when chatting with the guard, he learned that the justice world is an alliance composed of many worlds. Ogrim immediately had the idea of allowing his clan to join this alliance, but he was afraid of being rejected because of racial issues. Now that he met the founder of a just world, Ogrim would certainly not let go of this opportunity. He planned to try to see if he could facilitate this. If he could succeed, he would be willing to accept it as long as the conditions were not harsh, and he would be willing to work for this kind man for the rest of his life. Fight for the goddess of justice in the world. Binghua was not too surprised by Ogrim's explanation. The animal civilization was like this. The harsh environment would make them extremely powerful, but on the other hand, it would also make their technological development extremely slow. If there are other intelligent beings around them, maybe the beast civilization will realize the power of technology and pay attention to this aspect. However, judging from Ogrim's exaggerated physical strength, the beast civilization where he lives has already developed a physical body. Being extremely powerful, technology will naturally be extremely weak. Weak technology means that production efficiency is very low. Low production efficiency means that there is an upper limit on the survival materials that can be obtained in a certain period of time, and generally cannot keep up with the natural growth rate of the population. This means that when the population of a group reaches a certain upper limit, it must rely on some special means to deal with this excess population, including war and abandoning worthless old people. Although this is cruel, it is done for survival. Necessary compromises. But after technology develops to a certain extent, the materials produced by one labor force with the help of tools and equipment can often supply the needs of dozens or hundreds of people, which can effectively alleviate the survival pressure caused by survival materials. There are never any special conditions for joining the just world, but after your tribe joins the just world, it must fulfill its obligations as a member of the just world and abide by our laws. If you can accept this, then we welcome all civilizations to join. Binghua did not have a long speech. If Ogrim was really willing to join the Justice World, someone from the Ministry of Internal Affairs of the God's Throne World would naturally come to discuss the details with him. Ogrim was stunned after hearing this. It was as simple as that. At first, he thought he had to serve the Justice World for a period of time before he could join, or change his cultural customs. Thank you, Goddess, for your kindness and generosity. May you be invincible and glorious forever. Ogrim used his own barren vocabulary to praise Binghua's greatness, but Binghua signaled that he didn't need to do so and asked about topics he was interested in. Someone will come to communicate with you after this incident. I am very interested in why your body is so powerful. Can you tell me how you do it? Binghua asked about the topic he was most interested in, and Ogrim did not hide it. This was not a big secret in his civilization. There is a ritual called promotion in our clan, but only the best warriors are eligible to perform this ritual. We will drink the secret medicine collected by the clan elders, and then we will suffer in pain for a long time. Those who survive will become powerful berserkers like me. Ogrim's tone was very proud, but the people present heard another message in his words, that is, Ogrim belongs to a few examples and cannot appear on a large scale, and the so-called promotion ceremony has a mortality rate. It should not be low, or the secret medicine is limited, otherwise the so-called best warrior of the clan would not be selected. After understanding this fact, Ogrim left the private room under the leadership of the person in charge of the duel venue. I thought that the beast body civilization where Ogrim lives is a warrior as powerful as him. I'm sorry for making your trip in vain. Hizui said with some disappointment that the main reason why she contacted Binghua was because if time went on and there was a blood feud between the two sides, it would be unfavorable for Binghua to conquer the other's civilization. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifen Si Wang. Chapter 864. No, I didn't run away in vain. Ogrim's situation is obviously not unique in their civilization, which means that it can be replicated and is not difficult. Binghua stood up from his seat, came to Heikoi's side and said, "Is there any way you can reproduce Ogrim's situation in other beast warriors? Their physical strength is comparable to that of second-generation warriors. Sometimes I have to lament the magic of this universe, how long it took us angels to universalize the second-generation warriors, and how a civilization that does not even have basic physical rules can do it." Hichui said with emotion, because her sister is He-11, so Hichui knows how difficult it is. You are right. This universe is indeed magical. Although we angels are powerful, we are still far from exploring the universe. However, I do have the confidence to replicate Ogrim's situation. Don't forget the super-modified army that I achieved in the Justice World. As long as I have the prototype, it is not difficult to reduce the intensity and mass-produce it. Binghua's words were very casual, because she had done this kind of thing many times, and it was really not that difficult for her. Heikoi also realized that this was not a super soldier. She had just arrived in the justice world and was a little shocked after understanding its strength. Although the high-end force of the justice world is less than that of Merlot Angel, the number of elite legions that can rival the first-generation super warriors is simply terrifying. There are also quite a few demigod legions that rival the second-generation super warriors. As for those that can rival the third-generation super warriors to a certain extent, there are hundreds of thousands of people in the super army. Although these warriors are at the bottom compared with the super warriors of the same generation, or have just reached the standard in some aspects, the super warriors produced by some aerospace-level civilizations that have just entered the era of god-making may be better than the super warriors of a certain generation in the world of justice. The legions of warriors are stronger, but the number of legions in the world of justice is enough to overwhelm them. Even the regular battle between angel civilization and today's justice world is a bit weak, because the size of justice world is several times that of angel civilization, and the number of troops is even more so. Although the Merlot Heavenly Court can rely on the powerful individual combat capabilities of the angel warriors to gain an advantage, the righteous world only needs to exchange 100 for 1 to bring down the current angel civilization. But this is just a comparison of data on the surface. The real situation is that the legions of the angel civilization can completely use their own mobility advantages to bring down the world of justice. Hizui couldn't understand how Binghua had created such a terrifying monster in these 10,000 years. If it weren't for Binghua, who was the founder of the world of justice, and the angels taking a dominant position in it, Kesha would have already deployed troops on the border of the Chaos Star Sea and the known universe to guard against this sudden rise of a huge civilization. Ogram's incident caused Binghua to postpone the time to formulate a combat plan against Semilo's host, but it did not affect Binghua's promotion of this plan. In the world of God's throne, Ran glanced at the starport, which had not changed much, and said with a sigh, "I haven't been back for decades. I almost forgot that I am still the Archangel of Judgment." "Sister Ran, what's the point? Could there be an angel taking your place?" Zio said with a smile, and then opened her arms as if feeling the brilliance of the divine world. Ming, who came up from behind, patted Zio's back and said, "Stop standing here, like a fool. Weren't you still complaining that you haven't seen the Queen for a long time? Why don't you hurry up and go to the throne room?" "Sister Ming, you are so annoying, please forgive me for my good mood." Zio immediately caught up with Meditation, who had crossed her and wanted to put her arm on her shoulder, but he deliberately dodged him. The two of them walked into the starport jostling like this, attracting a lot of attention. Seeing this, Ran shook his head slightly. Ming and Zio had very similar personalities. Neither of them liked to think about anything too complicated, so they lived happily. "Ziloo, Yungzi, let's go too." Several companions around Ran Ming also walked into the starport. Such a beautiful scenery naturally attracted a lot of attention. But recently there have been a lot of angels coming to the world of God's throne, and the staff at the starport are no longer surprised. The day after Ran and his team of Archangels of Judgment arrived at the God's throne world, the top leaders of the Second Angel Legion headed by Elan also arrived at the God's throne world. For a time, the world of God's throne was turbulent. Commanders of various legions, commanders of God's fleets, commanders of expedition fleets, and God-level angels all gathered in the world of God's throne. Some Justice World officials have already sensed that something big is about to happen. After Binghua also dealt with the affairs of Newer World for a while, he took Hewi back to the God's throne world. Afterwards, Binghua held the first informal combat meeting and initially began to discuss how to carry out the operation against Semilo this time. "Goddess, our understanding of Semilo is extremely limited. At the beginning, I do not advocate launching a direct all-out attack." The commander of the Divine Guards, Langrim, took the lead in breaking the calm atmosphere of the meeting, which was a start. Commander Langrim is right. Although we have been dealing with the Eternal Ascendant for thousands of years, the other party has always been mysterious, and we have never seen the true face of Samilo. If we rashly put all our bets on it, if something unexpected happens, our righteous world may not be able to recover for hundreds of years. The speaker this time was Badar, the leader of Nudargar in the original world. He has extremely rich command and combat experience. He rose from the civil strife of Badar civilization and unified it. He also experienced various large-scale battles when the world of justice was founded. Thinking about defeat before thinking about victory is a personal characteristic of this world leader who is already quite young. It is very different from the decisive fighting style of his youth. Badar, if we don't take advantage of this great opportunity to eliminate the Samilo host in one fell swoop and let him escape, we will probably have to spend thousands more years with the eternal ascended ones. We in the world of Elleries no longer want to fill this bottomless pit with blood. I want the war to end in this generation, even if we have to pay a heavy price. Queen Errol said in a deep voice. She is the world leader who has dealt with these machines the most. She knows that they have great wisdom and are getting stronger. It was seen that the leaders of the original world were expressing their opinions to each other, but the leaders of the world that directly governed the world, or the leaders of civilizations who joined later, did not speak out. Because their views are similar to those of several world leaders who have already expressed their opinions, no one thinks about not attacking Samilo. People who think like this cannot become world leaders or governors. The main purpose of convening this meeting now is to discuss how to fight. There is still plenty of time at present. Various worlds are still mobilizing supplies from the God's throne world. There is still at least a long time before the war begins. This is also the purpose of Binghua's meeting. Although she has absolute dominance in the world of justice, as long as these world leaders can participate in the discussion, he will generally not act arbitrarily unless the situation is extremely urgent. This is why so many world representatives respect her so much. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 865. Binghua sat on the top seat and did not speak, quietly listening to the world leaders below arguing about whether to deploy all the troops at once or part of them. However, Binghua's silence does not mean that some angels do not put forward their own ideas. After working with these high-level officials of the righteous world for a long time, the angels have also restrained some of their arrogance. If you are worried about Samilo's strength, our envoy legion can rush to the system where Samilo is located one step ahead of schedule the next day to obtain information. Alan said warmly. The world leader who did not know this angel thought that the daughter of that family had come here when he heard his voice. Your Excellency Alan, this is too dangerous. If the follow-up troops do not keep up, you will be attacked from both sides. Immediately, world leaders spoke out about the risks behind implementation. Alan stopped speaking after hearing this. The main purpose of this meeting was not to specify a battle plan, but to put forward various ideas as a reference for the final battle plan, otherwise there would not be such endless debates as now. Binghua was actually thinking about how to formulate an attack plan against Samilo, and because of her identity, she also knew the most information. Today's high-end combat power in the world of justice, there are 4 war gods at the divine double-wing level, and a dozen at the next level. Basically all of them are former guardian angels, and there are hundreds of god-level angels at the next level. Many. The number of high-level angels is even larger due to the year-round wars, and they can even form several battle groups. Such a large force can even reproduce the scale of the angel expeditionary force during the Four Kings period. Among them, Kazaa's achievements are indelible. The angel civilians he gathered have been expanding in size over the past few thousand years, greatly enriching the angel army's manpower. This is the proportion of the angel civilization alone in the world of justice. If you add the elite legions drawn from thousands of worlds, the demigods of the throne world, and the Super Legion, this will be a force that can make the known universe tremble. This is also the reason why the world of justice dares to start a war with the Eternal Ascended One and the Chaos Virus on its own. Moreover, Binghua was paying attention to the situation in the known universe, and she was a little concerned about Carl's sudden appearance on the Angel Civilization's alert list. However, Binghua believes that Kesha can handle it. At the worst, the Angel Civilization will not be destroyed by the opponent. Protecting the Angel Nebula should not be a problem. And after the problems in the world of justice are resolved, Binghua plans to return to Merlot Heaven for a while to make some guys who only dare to do small tricks in secret be more honest. The former left-winger of mine is not dead yet. Before moving on the Angel Civilization, he must first consider whether he can handle the two Angel Kings at the same time. The first informal combat meeting came to an end after a period of time. No results were discussed, but several more feasible tactics were determined. Should I complain, people are so procrastinating in formulating a battle plan. Chui has not been in the world of justice for a long time. He has not yet adapted to the slow pace of working with mortals. His brain that can process information at high speed is extremely uncomfortable. It'll be fine once you get used to it. In fact, it's pretty good. Sometimes it's not good to think too fast. Ai Lan sat on the sofa and sipped a cup of hot tea, savoring the sweet taste contained in it. I didn't expect to meet you here again. I remember when you died, I was sentimental for a long time. Hizui said with emotion. In fact, she was quite shocked when Binghua told her that Ai Lan was still alive. I didn't expect that Queen Keisha would violate the rules she set by herself, save my secret information, and give it to the King of Heavenly Sword. Ai Lan also sighed when he said this. This is indeed beyond the expectations of us angels, but Queen Keisha can do this. To be honest, I am quite happy. Hizui said, thinking in his heart that no one who can become a king is what he looks like. According to what Hesui learned from Hyuka, Queen Kessa had preserved a considerable portion of the angel's dark information data, which showed that she did not do this because of Ai Lan's death. Queen Kesha's plan is actually not difficult to guess. When the angel civilization is in crisis, it is to reawaken these warriors to help the angels survive the crisis. Therefore, Heikawi didn't think there was anything wrong with what Queen Kessa did. Queen Kessa's original intention of banning reincarnation technology was just to prevent angels from ignoring life, whether it was themselves or others. This is true even in the world of justice. Binghua also masters the reincarnation technology and has not popularized it on a large scale. There are many reasons for this. But when the world of justice is in danger of overthrowing, Hizui believes that Binghua does not mind using this technology supplemented by biological cloning to build an undead army with rich combat experience. Actually, the feeling of coming back to life is not a good experience. I don't have any big regrets. I witnessed the Merlot Heavenly Palace that my sister longed for, and I also overturned the Heavenly Palace era. At that time, I was able to fall into the arms of Queen Kesha. I was actually very satisfied with my life and my past. Even my fall was in the midst of a struggle with the devil. Really, I am actually satisfied. Ai Lan said with a smile, and added when Hizui was surprised. I have already said hello to Binghua. If I unfortunately die in a certain battle in the future, please don't wake me up again. This is the first time I've heard someone say that they don't want immortal life. Hizui was surprised when he heard this, and couldn't understand why Ai Lan had such thoughts. Hizui, you will have a day like me. When you are no longer passionate about some things and have seen everything in the world, death is a kind of relief and a kind of rest, because after you die, you have nothing. You won't think about it, and the disputes in the world will have nothing to do with you from now on. Listening to Ai Lan's negative words, Hizui saw that Ai Lan's slightly excited mood was gradually cooling down. As expected, you and I still can't talk together. This was the case in the Merlot Heavenly Court, and it's the same now. Regarding Hizui's words, Ailan pursed her lips and chuckled. Contrary to what you feel, I find it interesting to chat with you. When I told Binghua this, her mood would not be greatly affected by my words. As long as it's something she's determined about, she will never change her mind unless she gets the results herself. When Ailan said Binghua, she looked a little envious. She envied Binghua for having her own pursuits and goals, and her passion to fight for them. If she were like that, she wouldn't say these words. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifen Si Wang. Chapter 866. This must be the first time you have met in the justice world. Judging from your expressions, you seem to be having a great time chatting. After Binghua finished handling his affairs, he opened the door and walked in. He happened to see Ailan and Hizui sitting in his restroom, so he walked over and said hello. It's just some meaningless emotions. Hizui said aloud, and then she asked the question she was interested in. How many troops do you plan to use to destroy Seminary this time? I see you have pulled me back, so the movement should not be small. Of course it won't be small. I don't know the other party's true or false situation, so to be on the safe side, I will use all my current strength. As soon as Binghua sat down, Jingnan, an assistant officer, entered the room and carefully poured Binghua a cup of her favorite drink. Of course, she did not forget Hakui and Ailan. That's really an exaggeration. It's bigger than the physical war. What Hakui was referring to was the military strength that the angel civilization invested in the physical war at that time. I expect this battle to be very dangerous, and I will personally participate in the battle. Binghua's next words made Ailan and Hizui look serious. It had been a long time since Binghua took the initiative to participate in the war. 100 years, 200 years, or even longer. This sentence represents that Binghua, the goddess of the world of justice, no longer plays the role of a nanny sitting in the rear like before, but is instead the vanguard who personally leads the charge to open the gap in the enemy's line on the battlefield. Moreover, to be honest, no one in the current world of justice knows about Binghua's full strength, because there is no opponent worthy of her full strength, and the enemies she encounters are all small characters who can be solved with a wave of her hand. In that case, I will also participate in this war against Seminary. I am very curious about your current strength, Queen. You must let me see your full strength when the time comes. Hizui felt that her calm heart was filled with enthusiasm and expectation that she had not seen for a long time. To be honest, she was tired of dealing with the star thieves and those low-level demons who were making trouble every day in Merlot Heaven. As for a war that allowed Binghua to take action personally, there would definitely be no shortage of opponents who could compete with her. She became interested in Seminary. Hichui was brought back by Binghua before, thinking that she was asked to clean up the trash. Hichui was still a little reluctant. Instead of abusing the food, it would be better to wander around the world and enjoy the food. It seems that we will lose a lot of sisters this time. The war is really cruel. Ailan suddenly interjected something, which made Hizui's face look as if he had stepped on something dirty. Although Binghua was in better condition, he also lost the faint smile that had always been on his face. Jingnan couldn't help but feel unhappy when he saw this scene. Lord Ailan is completely different in the world of justice and in the Merlot Heaven. Although his personality and habits are still the same as before, he has become very fond of saying things that ruin the atmosphere. The same was true when her queen was listening to Ailan's report yesterday. As she was talking, Ailan started to say some rather pessimistic words about the future, which made the queen rest for a long time before she could calm down and deal with the affairs. Okay, you and Ailan can chat slowly here, and I'll go and debug my arsenal first. After all, I need to use it recently. After Binghua finished speaking, he finished the drink in the glass on the table in front of him, stood up, said goodbye to the two of them, and left. Jingnan also nodded to Hakui and Ailan, and followed Binghua away. Did you do it on purpose? Hizui suppressed the desire to vomit and said. How is that possible, and what I said is also true? Isn't it wrong to tell the truth sometimes? Ai Lan said with a smile. Seeing this, Hizui suddenly lost interest in continuing to explore, and stood up from his seat and said. Since I have decided to participate in this war, I have to make some preparations. Otherwise, if I perform too poorly then, I will be embarrassed and lose my fortune. Ai Lan stared at Hizui's back, the smile on her face gradually faded, and she looked at her back with a little envy. Ever since she died once, Ai Lan knew that she would not really die, but because of this, she had lost her sense of urgency towards the battle, causing her to lose some of the war. Other angels were nervous while preparing for the battle, she was a little idle. Ai Lan tried to find Binghua, asked her not to resurrect herself, and tried to regain her sense of urgency about some things, but to no avail. One of the few things that can make Alan feel happy now is to observe the ever-changing yanyi of his colleagues and friends under the attack of his negative and pessimistic words. Binghua came to his Star Ring research laboratory and took out some of his weapons to optimize the algorithm. The most important ones were the Titan's Grip, the Neutron Blade, the Star-Breaking Gun and the Miniature Star Core. Break the star. Every weapon here would cause great disaster if it strayed, but in fact, even if it strayed, there would be almost no people who could use them. Because to operate these weapons, you need to have extremely high attainments in force fields. In addition, you must be proficient in time and space technology, otherwise it is easy to risk your own life. No matter how powerful the defenses of the divine bodies of the third-generation gods are, they cannot withstand the close-range burning of the high temperature inside the star for a long time, so Binghua has not upgraded their weapons in this regard. When this technology becomes mature and stable, and there is a way for them to easily control this type of weapon, Binghua will open it to other angels. As time passed, the second and third informal combat meetings were held immediately. After debates and conversations among many commanders, some unrealistic and extremely risky tactics were eliminated. At the same time, multiple parties collaborated, and tactics for performing their respective duties were gradually summarized, including reconnaissance, long-range strikes, blocking lines, forced breakthroughs, etc. At the same time, this war will not establish the position of commander. Instead, the planning department resources under each commander will be merged to form a top tactical planning department to coordinate the overall mobilization of troops. While the commanders were discussing tactics, various super legions, elite legions, demigod legions, divine guards, first, second, and judgment angel legions had completed their withdrawal from the front line and were stationed in the world of God's throne. As for the defense army, they were not there. This time the order of battle. The God's fleet and the main forces of the expedition fleets from various worlds were also mobilized to form a mixed fleet that has always been extremely large in scale. The residents of the God's throne world feel the deepest about such large-scale military mobilization. Large warships that are rarely seen in ordinary times have appeared in batches in recent times. For a moment, the residents of the God's throne world thought they had arrived at the fortress world on the front line. There seems to be no end to the epidemic in my case. It has been under lockdown for a month. I will rely on this book to earn some living expenses this month. If you are able, I hope you will support me a lot. If you are not able, you can check out the free channels for reading articles. It doesn't matter if it is piracy or something. I've had enough updates this month, I'm going to update more. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 867. While the fleets and legions gathered in the God's throne world, the scientific research angels in the God's throne world were not idle either and began to make final preparations for the gate of time and space to prevent unexpected situations from happening. When time came to the end of the 8th millennium of the establishment of the world of justice, the plan to annihilate the Samilo host was finally determined. I don't know how many familiar faces we will never see again after this war. A Super Legion chapter leader looked at the soldiers lined up neatly at the military port before boarding the ship, and said this to himself. Even the Super Legion officers with the lowest casualty rate in the world of justice have this idea, let alone those elite legions. From the move of the Masterpiece World to remove the defense force from the order of battle, it can be seen that the defense force in this war will be just cannon fodder even if it goes away. And these elite regiments, which used to be elite strike teams in wars, will play the role of defense forces this time and are the vanguard of the assault in this war. But no one said anything. Everyone knew that this battle was of great importance. As long as they won, they would lose a powerful enemy. Binghua also completed the preparation of his own weapons during the time when he was formulating the battle plan. The scientific research angels also completed the positioning of the star system where Samilo is located. Open a supergiant door to time and space. However, if all the troops currently stationed in the world of God's throne are to pass through, then the gate of space cannot be closed in a short time. If the army of the justice world did not occupy a safe area there after passing through the gate of time and space, then it would not be impossible for the eternal ascended ones to follow the gate of time and space and hit the God's throne world. Therefore, the day before it was decided to start the annihilation battle of Samelo, the God's throne world stopped interstellar routes and began to restrict personnel travel. The protective facilities of the God's throne world have also been activated one after another, and various orbital strike methods and orbital defense platforms have been mobilized near the gate of time and space. The space-time shield system of the God's throne world was also activated on the day when it was preparing to attack Samilo. It can be said that the Supreme Tactical Planning Department has done everything it can think of. Queen, I didn't expect you to be in the first echelon with us. Ailan, Binghua, and Hizui stood on the carrying platform of the Gate of Time and Space. Behind them were the soldiers of the Second Angel Legion standing on the platform in a square formation. I am the strongest angel warrior in the world of justice. Of course I will participate in such an important matter as opening up a safe area. Binghua held the hilt of the Wang sword in front of her and said with a faint smile. 3 holy winged angel warriors, several god-level angels, and hundreds of high-level angels are just the so-called vanguard. Hizui looked back slightly and glanced at the dense crowd of angel warriors behind him and exclaimed. If this was in the known universe and those god-making civilizations did not form an alliance, I feel that it would be enough to fight a war to annihilate the god-making civilization. Hichui has stayed in the known universe for the longest time and knows the situation of some known universe civilizations, so he sighed like this. Samilo is very dangerous and has strength that far exceeds that of the god-making civilization. Otherwise, I would not have gathered so many troops to participate in this annihilation battle. After arriving at the battlefield, be careful not to be fooled by the opponent's tricks. Binghua reminded Ailan and Hizui on the side that what Binghua was referring to was naturally his own copy. Since Samilo has created a mechanical warrior based on himself, it means that there is definitely more than one. It is very likely that he has reduced costs and created a so-called mass-produced model. This was the case with the special type of destroyer that he once encountered in the purification star field. In a short period of time, Samilo created various specialized destroyers based on the destroyer that he destroyed. Finally, in the world of justice and eternity when the ascendants were fighting, so-called saboteurs also appeared. After Binghua's disassembly and research on the destroyer, it was discovered that it was a castrated version of the destroyer. Some of its more special functions were abandoned, leaving only the purification energy field defense system and the solid alloy skeleton. There are no weapons such as small structural weapons that can be combined at will. It is only equipped with an energy blade and a high-power purification ray emission module in the hand. In this attack on Samilo, Binghua anticipated that he would face a large number of eternal ascended mechanical warriors, so he removed the defense forces from the combat order. Because in the face of those powerful mechanical warriors, ordinary defense force soldiers can only be slaughtered by them in despair. Only elite legions can destroy the purifier sequence mechanical warriors among them. Hizui naturally didn't know what Binghua was thinking. After hearing her reminder, he looked very confident and said, "Don't worry, I'm not a new soldier, I won't rush around on the battlefield. Attention all units, attention to all units, the gate of time and space is about to begin hyperspace projection, please ask irrelevant personnel to leave the energy capture range." The voice of the gate of time and space console echoed in all nearby communication channels. Some of the angel warriors who were still talking immediately stopped talking to each other and stood ready. Maybe as soon as they passed, they would be greeted by a fierce battle. Be prepared. Maybe we will be delivered to the opponent's interior or near the base. Binghua no longer held the hilt of Wangjian, but instead held it with one hand. The Titan's hand armor on her left hand had been equipped on her when she arrived. Hizui and Ai Lan also restrained their emotions and their expressions became serious. The giant ring of time and space began to rotate slowly, and blue energy lightning flashed among several rings of time and space that rotated clockwise and counterclockwise. Incomparably huge energy was extracted from the ring of stars by the gate of time and space, and the ring of time and space rotated faster and faster. Soon, Binghua and the others were surrounded by a surging blue energy wall. After the energy of the gate of time and space was accumulated, the rings of time and space arranged up and down tilted slightly, emitting a dazzling blue light beam to bombard the empty space of the universe. What's surprising is that the blue light beam didn't keep moving forward, as if it bombarded an invisible wall. The next moment, the space shattered and a big hole was blasted out. The blue beam of light rushed into the broken hole in this space unabated, preparing to make a hole in the real physical universe at the other end and send the second legion of angels there. In a planetary system tens of millions of light-years away from the world of justice, the originally peaceful void suddenly became rippled, and then dense cracks appeared like a shattered mirror, and suddenly a huge hole appeared. A blue beam of light immediately shot out from it, and the figures gradually became clear. They were the second angel legion that carried out ultra-long-distance space projection through the gate of time and space. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifen Si Wang. Chapter 868. Is this where Samilo is? Why is there nothing around? Is the location wrong? Heikawi looked around, searching for possible enemies of the Eternal Ascended Ones. Don't be careless. Let me scan it. The other party is probably hiding it. Binghua's eyes lit up with white light, and his eyes of insight began to scan the surrounding dark information. The seemingly ordinary planets and space information began to be aggregated into Binghua's mind, and her personal dark plane computing cloud began to be dismantled and the abnormal information contained therein was extracted individually. Follow the orders and lead your battle groups to collect intelligence around them, establish defense lines, divide each team's combat area, build a communication network, and measure the surrounding space, energy, and star data. Ai Lan issued orders in her Legion communication and quickly prepared for battle. This was an unknown area, and their angels needed to calculate some data in order to exert their maximum combat effectiveness. Heikawi had no job, so she began to observe the surrounding environment. She found that this place was no different from other galaxies in the universe. A bright star is located in the middle of the galaxy, followed by several planets orbiting it. Other than that, there is nothing unusual. The only strange thing is that the space here is very empty and there are no floating asteroids. Ai Lan listened to the report of his angels, glanced at Binghua, who was still scanning the galaxy, came to Hizui and said seriously. The angels under my command who measured the data reported to me that the intensity of the star's radiation energy here is unexpectedly weak. Based on our distance from the star, this is very unusual. When Hizui heard this, he closed his eyes and began to activate his energy accumulation algorithm. After a moment, he opened his eyes again, nodded slightly, and said, "There is indeed something abnormal. The radiation energy from the stars I can mobilize is much weaker than in other galaxies." The white light in Binghua's eyes disappeared at this time, and she withdrew from the state of the eye of insight. She looked at the planetary system in front of her without any abnormalities, and the corners of her mouth were slightly raised. "Sure enough, there is something strange. Alan has set up a large space anchor. Our position is not wrong. What is wrong is that this galaxy has been tampered with." Alan didn't ask what kind of move it was. What he was fighting for now was time, and he couldn't tolerate any delay, so he immediately gave the order. Binghua stared at the calm galaxy in front of him and raised his left hand. A glow like the surface of a star burst out from the gaps in the Titan's grip. The power of the invisible force field began to expand and extend crazily, and in a moment it covered a large area of space ahead. "Show your true face here, Simialo." As Binghua finished speaking, he grasped the 5 fingers of his left hand equipped with the Titan's grip, and the force field covering a large area of space suddenly solidified. Under the crushing force of the invisible force, dazzling flames suddenly burst out in the originally empty space. Like a short-circuit display screen, everything around him began to fluctuate violently. The scene that happened next made all the angels present slightly widen their eyes. In the originally normal planetary system, the brilliance of the stars began to dim quickly, and the particle-like light dispersed in the empty space, revealing the giant silver-gray metal creation underneath. At the same time, incomplete stars with a lot of traces of mechanical modifications replaced the previous planets orbiting the stars. What makes everyone most incredible is the giant metal creation that occupies a large field of view, like imprisoning the entire star in a cage. Even if no one pointed it out, everyone present knew that the being who swallowed a star into his body should be the so-called Samilo host. This is an exaggeration. Can we really destroy an existence of this scale in a short time? Hizui twitched the corners of his mouth slightly. She had seen a lot, but this was the first time she had seen such a huge existence. "After I found my true identity, you became so angry that you planned to take action directly." Binghua was the first to react. She was very sensitive to changes in stellar energy. She noticed that the energy radiated from Samilo began to decrease, and understood that the other party had begun to accumulate energy. Sure enough, at the next moment, in front of Samilo's body that was larger than a star, located in the center of the planetary system, blue purifying energy began to accumulate crazily, and even formed a swirling energy vortex. This made Ailan and Hizui's expressions change. Their huge size often represented extremely powerful wide-area destructive power. Angel's high maneuverability would not have any advantage under such a wide-covering energy strike. Hizui and Ailan were not worried about whether they could survive such an attack. They were worried about the angel warriors of the Legion. Seeing this, Binghua stretched out his hand and opened it forward. A crack suddenly appeared in the void in front of him, and several giant edge shields appeared and combined together, turning into a composite tower shield several meters high. And as a circle of silver metal teeth extended around the edge of the tower shield to spread energy, a blue space-time shield barrier of several kilometers suddenly stood up. "Let the soldiers come to my position quickly," Binghua shouted in the communication, and then directly connected the miniature star energy source on the Titan's grip to the space-time shield in front. The barrier energy spread by the space-time shield became solidified several times at a speed visible to the naked eye, like an indestructible high wall standing in the universe. But soon a dazzling blue ray shot out from the distant Samilo host position across a distance of more than half of the planet system, instantly covering the area where the Second Angel Legion was located. Binghua and the other angels of the Second Angel Legion were directly submerged by this beam of light with a diameter of tens of kilometers, without even a trace of waves splashing. "Can you hold it?" In the blue ocean of energy, Binghua used the force field of Titan's grip to push against the space-time shield. Only then was he not forced to retreat by the impact of energy. Hearing Hizui's words, he gritted his teeth and replied, "I can still hold on." If Binghua hadn't mastered the technology of star miniaturization and used it as an energy source, she wouldn't have been able to support such a large space-time shield barrier to protect the angel warriors present. This beam bombardment with an extremely terrifying diameter lasted for several minutes before it ended. Although Binghua's force field shield withstood the attack, it was not far from overload. The duration of Semilo's attack was really too long. The energy deflection field must be established as soon as possible, otherwise if Semilo attacks the army of the world of justice, he may directly evaporate an entire fleet. On the other hand, Binghua was also glad that he chose to participate in this operation to open up a safe zone. Otherwise, except for Elan and several god-level angels, the other soldiers of the Angel Legion might be unprepared the next day. He was wiped out on the spot by the super large-scale energy strike. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 869. Has the communication channel construction been completed? Still contacting the world of God's throne, Semilo seems to have interfered with our communication channel. I need time to find the method of this interference. The angel of the Second Angel Legion who was responsible for setting up the communication channel operated the projection light screen and quickly replied. Binghua heard the words and stopped asking. She didn't dare to put away the space-time shield, because the energy source of Semilo was a star in its prime. No one knows better than Binghua, who has captured stars, how terrifying a star is. The level of energy release just now is insignificant for a star. Even if Semilo's weapon system entered a cooling state due to the attack just now, Binghua did not dare to act rashly, because she could not guarantee that Semilo would only have the cannon just now. The core of Semilo's host was actually discovered when Binghua and the Second Angel Legion arrived in this planetary system through the gate of time and space. As the core of the Eternal Ascender, the Semilo host has an extremely vast technological database. There are many technologies related to space, so it is natural to detect fluctuations in space transfer. But Semilo didn't want to open a battlefield so close to his host. So before Binghua discovered the secrets of this planetary system, Semilo chose to continue hiding. But when Hyuka tore off his disguise, Semilo's calculations came out. This was an inevitable war. Although Semilo didn't want to set the battlefield near his core host, the enemy had already arrived at his doorstep, so he naturally wouldn't choose to escape directly. Therefore, as soon as the battle started, a giant purification ray cannon was blasted, but the opponent was able to block it, which was beyond his calculations. But Semilo's latest calculation and analysis results show that he still has a winning rate of over 90%. If one giant purification ray cannon is not enough, then a few more rounds will be enough. Energy is just a consumable for Semilo. If the energy of the star is exhausted, then just change to another star. At that time, you only need to build a new star factory on another star in advance and transfer your own host there. After the muzzle energy transmission circuit was cooled down, Semilo fired a cannon in Binghua's direction without hesitation. But there was still no change in the result. The blue space-time shield was like a copper wall, blocking any harm. However, several bombings have allowed Semilo to obtain the data he wanted. The surfaces of giant metal creations floating in the space near the ice bloom suddenly flipped over, revealing large purification rail guns inside. Then these rail guns rotated the base of the turret at the same time, and the muzzles were aimed at the space-time shield held up by Binghua. In the middle of the prismatic metal barrel separated up and down, blue energy lightning began to jump uneasily. The next second, a solid blue beam of light shot out from the barrel of the railgun, hitting the space-time shield, causing waves of surging blue energy waves. When the space-time shield propped up by Binghua was bombarded by the Eternal Ascended Ones, mechanical warriors of the purifier sequence emerged from those large metal creations that looked like military fortresses. Their number was extremely terrifying, dozens of times that of the second day's legions. Even the battle-hardened Hisui was dumbfounded by such a terrifying scene. "I think we need to think about whether to retreat." After hearing Hisui's words, Elan said seriously. "What's wrong with this? Since our second-day legion was established, we have never fought a battle where we have numerical superiority." After speaking, Elan incited the angel wings to fly away from Binghua, and began to command his angels to face the enemy. "Attention, all squads! Attention, all squads! The enemy is approaching. Repeat, the enemy is approaching. The high-level angels are preparing for the heavenly blade judgment, and the other angel warriors are preparing for the flame bombardment. Blow them to pieces." Elan's voice also became serious. This war actually gave her a sense of urgency. It seemed that several shellings by Samaelo made her know that their world of justice might fail in this battle of annihilation against Samaelo. The lives of all the soldiers of the Second Angel Legion now depend on her. "What about me? What about me? Alan? What should I do?" Hisui asked in the communication. She now understood that this war was not a child's play and she was not allowed to act without permission. "Heke, you will be near the Queen to protect her and the communication channel installation team. I hate protection tasks." Hisui complained softly in the communication channel, but his body remained honest by Binghua's side, his eyes constantly looking around to prevent the enemy's sneak attack tactics. Although Binghua was maintaining the space-time shield, he was also observing the surroundings. Their position was very good, and they did not rush into the crossfire area of the Eternal Ascended Ones and fall into a situation where they were surrounded on three sides. Now she only needs to block the attack from the front to greatly reduce the casualties of the Second Angel Legion. But if she saw it correctly, two of the Eternal Ascended's war fortresses floating in the universe seemed to be moving to both sides of her. But now we are unable to free our hands to deal with them. If this continues for a while, the soldiers of the Second Army will encounter crossfire bombardment from the enemy from both sides. At this moment, the Second Angel Legion also fought against the Purifier Sequence mechanical warriors that rushed over. First, there was a wave of Sky Blade Judgment released at the same time. The large-scale energy impact that seemed to be able to pierce the void instantly blasted hundreds of huge gaps in the army of mechanical warriors attacked by the Eternal Ascended Ones. But these mechanical warriors are all self-disciplined combat weapons without any personality. They will not have any emotional fluctuations in the continuous damage and disappearance of their companions. Their goal has been only one from beginning to end, and that is to destroy this group of enemies that invaded this galaxy. After overcoming the concentrated bombing of Sky Blade Judgment, these mechanical warriors ushered in a wave of even larger cluster flame bombings. For a time, the entire space was filled with red energy. Although its damage range is far less than that of the heavenly blade judgment issued by high-level angels, any angel warrior can use the flame bombing. After 2 rounds of large-scale bombing, the originally dense army of mechanical warriors had become sparse in number. But at this time, the angel also entered the range of the purification ray gun in the hands of the mechanical warrior. For a moment, blue purification rays and flaming slashes flew into the air, passing each other and rushing towards each other's masters. The angel warriors easily evaded such direct attacks, and the mechanical warriors also chose to evade the flying flame slashes. Of course, some unlucky angels and purifier mechanical warriors who were caught in the fire were not so lucky. He could only use the flaming sword in his hand as a shield to block his face, and use his armor to resist the incoming purification rays. As for the mechanical warriors of the purifier sequence, because they were not equipped with a purification energy field shield, when faced with the extremely corrosive and ultra-high temperature flame slash, their arms were either cut off or divided into 2 halves.